At my nephew's birthday party, my sister handed me cake, then humiliated me in front of everyone. After paying their bills and tuition for years, I canceled next semester's payment on the spot, and her husband chased me out, begging me to reconsider. My name's Erin, I'm 34, and for the past 7 years, I've been what my family calls the reliable one. You know the type. Pays on time, answers calls, shows up when someone's in the hospital, takes care of the chaos behind the scenes so no one else has to. I never asked for that role, never volunteered. But I fell into it the way most eldest siblings do. One missed bill at a time. One, hey, could you cover this just once at a time? Eventually, it wasn't a favor anymore. It was expected, and I let it slide for a long time, mostly because it was easier than fighting with them. Until last weekend, my nephew Tyler turned 10. He's a sweet kid, funny, smart, a little quiet around crowds, but lights up when he's around animals. I adore him. Every year, I go out of my way to make sure his birthday is something special, especially since my sister Jenna and her husband Travis have a habit of planning late and spinning even later. Last year, they tried to book a venue the week of the party. It got canceled the night before. I ended up reserving a backup indoor trampoline park out of pocket $1,600 just to keep the kids from being crushed with disappointment. They never paid me back, not even a thank you card. This year, I prepaid the venue again, an animal petting farm Tyler had mentioned once in passing. I remembered because he'd lit up when he talked about goats, and I figured why not. I also chipped in for the cake. The food truck, the rented tables and chairs, none of which Jenna asked for directly, of course. She just texted me things like, "We'll need more chairs. Can you take care of that?" Or food trucks asking for deposit. Should I give them your info? I handled it because I didn't want Tyler to suffer because his parents were flaky. But something had been building in me lately. A pressure, a quiet, cold realization that I wasn't appreciated, just used. And I think I knew deep down that this party was going to be the last straw. It started off fine. The kids were running around the yard, the goats were bleating, and Tyler looked genuinely happy, which almost made it worth it. Almost. I tried to stay out of the way, helped set up some tables, tipped the food truck guy, a little extra handed out water bottles. Then came cake time. Everyone gathered near the patio where Jenna had set up a folding table for the desserts. She had on one of those boho maxi dresses, all flowy and bright, like she was auditioning for some Instagram parenting reel. Travis stood behind her with his usual smirk, nursing a plastic cup of soda and acting like he'd done anything to earn this moment. Jenna cut the cake, passed a few pieces to the kids, and then turned to me with a tight smile. "Here," she said, handing me a slice. "Last I can do since you're always buying your way into being the favorite." I blinked. "What?" She laughed, but there was no warmth in it. "You know buying stuff doesn't make you special, Erin. You're just the family wallet. That's all you've ever been." Travis chuckled like she just said something wildly clever. "It's true, man. Got to admit it's convenient. You always swoop in and save the day." I stood there for a second holding that stupid plate of cake, looking between them. My mom was a few feet away fussing with napkins. She glanced over, heard enough to know what was going on, and muttered without looking up, "Let it go, Erin. It's not worth it. Not today. Let it go." The same words I'd heard when they borrowed my car and returned it with a busted bumper. When they accidentally used my Amazon account to order a $900 iPad for Tyler's school, when Travis lost his job for the third time, and I co-signed a private school loan because Tyler deserves better. Let it go, let it go, let it go. I looked down at the cake, then over at the gift table where a large white envelope sat, my envelope. Inside was a certified check. Final payment on Tyler's next semester at that private academy. They hadn't thanked me. They hadn't even told Tyler it was from me. I overheard Jenna telling someone it was a family gift. I placed the plate gently on the table, walked over to the gift pile, picked up the envelope. "What are you doing?" Jenna asked, half laughing, half confused. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make a scene. I just said, clear enough for her, Travis, and anyone else nearby to hear. "Good luck covering next semester. I just canceled the payment." She blinked, stunned. "What?" I turned and started walking. "You can't just do that," she shouted, a note of panic creeping into her voice. "Erin, you promised." "I never promised," I said, not looking back. "You assumed." Big difference. I made it halfway down the gravel driveway before I heard footsteps pounding behind me. I didn't need to turn around to know it was Travis. And I just knew that whatever he was about to say wasn't going to be an apology. He caught up to me near the gate, slightly out of breath, red-faced. "Hey, come on, man. Don't do this. We're family." I paused at the word family, the word they all threw around like duct tape. meant to patch over every insult, every manipulation, every broken promise. I turned slowly. Travis stood there, hands on his hips like he was about to give a pep talk. I could see him trying to puff himself up, shoulders square, chin high, the same way he'd looked when he cornered me at Thanksgiving to ask for a small bridge loan that turned out to be 15 grand. He wasn't angry yet, just desperate enough to pretend we were on the same team. Look, he said, dropping his voice like we were co-conspirators. I know Jin says stuff sometimes, but you know how she gets when she's stressed. It's not personal, man. Not personal. I raised an eyebrow. She called me a wallet. She was joking. No, you laughed because you agreed. He opened his mouth to protest, but I stepped forward. Not aggressive, just close enough that he had to take a half step back. You think I don't notice, I asked? The way you only call when you need something. The way you both talk about me like I'm some backup generator that kicks in when you mess up. His face twitched. The casual mask cracked for just a second. That tuition payment, I added. I made it last week. Then I canceled it right before I left the party. The school's already been notified. They'll expect full payment by the end of the month. His lips parted, stunned. You can't. Tyler needs that school. I nodded. Yeah, he does. And it's a shame his parents were too busy running their mouths to realize the person keeping him there was standing right in front of them. He reached out suddenly, maybe to grab my arm, maybe just to make a point, but I stepped back. Don't, I said sharply. We're done, Travis. I'm not paying another bill, not a penny, not for school, not for rent, not for emergencies. You're a grown man. Figure it out. He dropped his hand, eyes flicking around like he was expecting someone to run out and back him up, but no one did. Behind us, the music from the party was still playing faintly, and the laughter of kids echoed across the yard. He looked like a man standing outside a locked house in the rain. You know, he muttered bitterly. It must be nice. Having money must be real easy looking down on everyone else when you've never had to struggle. That hit a nerve. I work 70-hour weeks. I snapped. I skipped vacations, skipped relationships, skipped entire years of my life so I could build something. You think I'm lucky? You think this? I waved a hand toward the driveway, toward the new car parked at the end. Just fell into my lap while you were sleeping in and job hopping. I was eating tuna from a can and coding websites in a basement at 3 a.m. Travis went quiet. Not ashamed, just quiet. His jaw clenched, but there was no comeback this time. I'm not mad that you needed help, I said, my voice lowering. I'm mad that you took it for granted. That Jenna made a speech about how we paid for everything that your kid doesn't even know who really kept the lights on. He looked away. Tell her I'm done. I finished. Tell your wife that the wallet just closed. I turned and walked away, passing the long row of parked cars. I could hear him still standing there, but he didn't follow. When I got into my car and shut the door, the silence hit me harder than I expected. No one had ever chased after me before. Not when I left family dinners early, not when I stopped texting back for a week, not even when I skipped Father's Day after Mom told me I owed it to the family to make peace with Dad after he called me a disappointment. I sat there, engine off, hands on the wheel, just breathing. It wasn't just about the money. It never was. It was about being needed only when I could be used. About feeling like the price of being accepted was measured in wire transfers and gift receipts, and I had finally hit my limit. My phone buzzed. Jenna. First it was a missed call, then a text. What did you do? Tyler's crying, the school called, you're ruining everything. I stared at it for a second, then another one came in. Come back and fix this, you're being ridiculous. And another. If you don't care about us, at least think about Tyler. Then a call from my mom. I let it ring. 10 seconds later, a message popped up. You need to apologize. We don't treat family like this. I laughed out loud, alone in the car. I typed back exactly. I hit send, then turned the key, started the car, and pulled away from the party I'd paid for but wasn't invited to anymore. I didn't know what would come next. I knew they'd panic, that there would be voicemails and guilt trips, and maybe even a surprise visit or two, but I was done pretending, and I hadn't even gotten to step 2 yet. By the time I pulled into my driveway, it was almost sunset. The sky was that weird orange pink that made everything look soft, like the world had decided to put a filter over my mess of a day. I parked in silence, engine humming down, and just sat there with my phone still lit up in my hand. More missed calls, a few voicemails. One from Jenna that started with a fake sweet, I just want to talk, and ended with a hissed, you're unbelievable. Another from Mom, long and guilt-laced, talking about how families don't keep score. I didn't delete them. I didn't even listen to all of them. I just closed the app, shoved my phone into the glove compartment, and locked the car. I didn't want to go inside right away. My place was nice, quiet, clean mine, but the silence in there was heavier than usual. It had always been that way after family events. The noise would drain out, and I'd be left alone with that old ache. The one that whispered, maybe I really wasn't built for all that warmth and chaos, that maybe I was only ever invited to keep things functioning. But today, for the first time, the ache felt different. It felt honest. I took the long way around the house, walking through my backyard instead of the front door. I'd landscaped it myself a few years ago, laid the stones, built the tiny deck, strung up soft solar lights that flicked on automatically as the sun dipped. I poured a glass of water from the outdoor tap, sat in one of the wooden chairs, and just listened to the wind for a while. I thought about Tyler. I really did. Not Jenna, not Travis, not even Mom, just Tyler. That kid deserved better parents, but more than that, he deserved the truth. Not some version of reality they cobbled together to make themselves look good. He was smart. He'd figure it out eventually. I just hoped he wouldn't be too jaded when he did. Eventually, I stood up and went inside. That's when I opened the drawer in my office and pulled out the second envelope. The one Jenna and Travis didn't know existed. The one I prepared after they forgot to reimburse me for the last medical emergency when Tyler broke his arm and they claimed they weren't covered anymore. Inside the envelope were receipts, contracts, and a neat little spreadsheet tracking every dime I'd spent on their family since 2019. It included everything: school fees, hospital bills, party rentals, car repairs, groceries, even the hotel room I booked for them during a hurricane evacuation. They didn't bother to thank me for. In total, it came out to $61,437.88, give or take a few cents. But that wasn't the important part. The important part was the email I'd scheduled to go out that morning. Not to them. No, that would have been too easy. It went to the school administrator, the financial aid director, and one of my old college friends who now worked for the school's board. The email simply explained that I was no longer associated with Tyler's tuition, but I was deeply concerned that he might suffer academically due to his parents' financial misrepresentation. It offered to send a full breakdown of prior payments under my name, as well as to provide contact information for someone who could verify the circumstances. That friend he'd already replied hours before the party even started. Thanks for the heads up. This explains a lot. I'll have a word with the director also. Wow, they really did this to you. I replied back with a smiley face in the line. Long story. I'll buy you coffee next week. I didn't want to take anything from Tyler. That wasn't my goal. But if Travis and Jenna were going to keep pretending the world owed them for their failures, someone had to break the pattern. I couldn't keep covering for them while they taught that kid to do the same thing. So I took the envelope, scanned everything in, and dropped it into a shared folder labeled for when they lie again. I didn't know when I'd use it. Maybe never, maybe next week. But it was there, and it felt like armor. The next day, the storm really hit. Jenna showed up at my place around 11 a.m., uninvited, of course. I watched her from the upstairs window before she even rang the bell. She was pacing on the front step like she wasn't sure whether to scream or cry. Eventually, she knocked. I waited 5 seconds, then 10, then opened the door slowly. Her expression was all over the place. Shock, hurt, fury, and somewhere beneath it all, fear. Real fear. The kind that only shows up when the safety net is finally, truly gone. Erin, she started, her voice thin, like she was trying to make herself small. Please, we need to talk. I don't think we do. Tyler's school is calling, she said, stepping forward. They're saying things about payments being canceled, about financial aid being denied. What did you do? I told them the truth. I said that I'm not his parent, that I've been paying for him out of guilt and obligation, but that I'm not responsible for your life anymore. She stared at me, stunned. You can't just walk away. I already did. Her eyes filled with tears. What about Tyler? You're punishing him for what we did. No, I said, quiet. I'm teaching him what accountability looks like. That's when her face changed. The anger flared back. You think this makes you the good guy? I think it makes me free. She opened her mouth to argue again, but I didn't give her the chance. Jenna. I said, go home and tell Travis. This was step one. Then I closed the door. I didn't hear from Jenna or Travis for 3 full days after that. 3 glorious days of quiet. No buzzing phone, no guilt-laced texts. No fake apologies or frantic pleas pretending to be about Tyler. Just silence. I took long walks, cooked dinner like I actually had time to taste it. Slept deeply. For the first time in what felt like years, I didn't feel like I was bracing for someone else's disaster. And then on day 4 came the voicemail from my mom. Aaron, I'm coming over tomorrow. We're going to talk about this. I'm not letting you tear this family apart. That's when I knew it was time for step 2. Step 2 wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It didn't involve shouting matches or locked doors. It was just clean. The next morning before Mom showed up, I gathered every financial record I had. Bank transfers, canceled checks, contracts, even the old emails where Jenna had sent me PayPal requests labeled urgent and please just this once. I put it all in a neat little binder. Then I pulled out another envelope, this one sealed and addressed to my lawyer. Inside was a notarized letter I'd had prepared a year ago when I first started getting the creeping sense that someday I'd need to protect myself. The letter revoked my informal financial responsibility for any member of my extended family and outlined how no further payments were to be made from my accounts on anyone's behalf, just in case things escalated. It also included a formal notification. As of that date, I was resigning from the trust my dad had named me executive of, because surprise, even after all this, they still planned to make me the one responsible for distributing family assets when the time came. No more. I texted my lawyer to confirm receipt. He wrote back, "Smart move, about time." Then with everything filed and sent, I waited. Mom arrived at noon. She didn't knock, just walked in like she always had. That was the first thing I noticed. How normal it felt, how routine. She swept in like this was her house, like I was still 16. And she was here to tell me to clean my room or help set the table. But when she saw the binder sitting on the kitchen counter, her face shifted. "What's this?" I gestured. "Everything I've paid for since 2019. Itemized, receipts included." I thought it might help make the next conversation easier. She flipped through a few pages, frowning. "Why are you doing this? Because you said I was tearing the family apart. I figured if we're going to talk about that, we should look at the facts." She closed the binder and gave me one of those tired mom sighs, the kind meant to imply I was being dramatic, overthinking, ungrateful. "You're missing the point," she said. "It's not about money. It's about love, about helping each other." I laughed. "Is that what this is, love, Aaron? Because if this is what love looks like, I want no part of it." She sat down across from me, her expression hardening. "You've always been the strong one, the capable one. That's why we leaned on you. You make things look easy. Maybe we forgot to say thank you every time, but that doesn't mean we didn't appreciate it." "That's the problem," I said, calm but sharp. "You didn't forget to say thank you. You just decided you didn't need to anymore." There was a long pause. She didn't deny it. "I'm not going to ruin my life so the rest of you can avoid cleaning up yours." I said, "I love Tyler, but Jenna and Travis, they crossed a line." Mom shook her head slowly. "So what? You're just cutting us all off." I leaned forward. "No, I'm just taking back control of my time, my money, my sanity. If you need something, you ask. I'll think about it. But the era of me being the silent safety net, it's over." She looked like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. Instead, she stood, smoothed her sweater, and said, "I hope you can live with this." I smiled. "I'm counting on it." She left without another word. 2 weeks passed. I didn't hear from anyone, not even Tyler. Then one evening, I got a knock on the door. Not Jenna, not Travis. Tyler, 10 years old, wearing his school backpack, standing nervously on my porch. "Hey," he said. I don't think I was supposed to come." I crouched down to meet him at eye level. "You're always welcome here, buddy. What's up?" He hesitated. "They're fighting a lot. Mom and Dad about the school, about money, about you." I nodded slowly. "That's not your fault." "I know," he said, but didn't sound convinced. I wanted to say thank you for the party and the school and stuff." I swallowed. "You don't have to thank me, Tyler. I did it because I care about you." He looked down. "They said you don't anymore." I placed a hand on his shoulder. "That's not true. But sometimes when adults make bad choices, the people who've been covering for them have to stop, or else the cycle keeps going forever." "Do you understand?" He nodded slowly. Then his eyes brightened. "Can I still come hang out sometimes?" "Of course," I said, pulling him into a hug. "Anytime." That night, we made mac and cheese, watched an old movie, played cards until his mom called looking for him. She didn't say much, just told me to send him back home. I did, but not before slipping a small envelope into his backpack. Inside was a prepaid debit card loaded with a modest amount and a sticky note that read, "For books, art supplies, or whatever you want. Not for your parents, just for you." I didn't hear a word from Jenna after that, but I didn't need to. Over the next few months, things shifted. I stopped answering family group texts that only showed up when someone needed help. I went back to therapy, not because I was falling apart, but because I realized I deserved to process how long I'd spent being the stable one and nothing else. I started traveling, just small trips at first, a cabin near the lake, a flight out to Denver to visit college friends. I left my phone on Do Not Disturb more often than not. At Christmas, I didn't go to the big family dinner. Instead, I took Tyler out for a day in the City Museum's pizza and arcade. He told me he was thinking about being an architect someday. I told him he'd be great at it. At one point, he looked up at me and said, "You seem happier now," and I realized I was. Not because I'd won some big fight, not because I'd crushed anyone, but because I finally stopped letting guilt dictate my life. I still get the occasional message from Travis, mostly passive-aggressive stuff like, "Wish we could have worked this out like adults," or "Hope you're enjoying your high horse." I don't respond. Jenna stopped pretending completely. I haven't heard from her in months, but that's fine. Let her stew. Let her learn. Let her explain to Tyler one day why his uncle had to step back to keep from drowning. Because I wasn't the villain in this story. I was the one who said no. Finally. And sometimes that's what being the hero really looks